Hello, and welcome to the Madecast, the official podcast of the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment, a series of lectures on video game history as part of the Made's ongoing effort to preserve history through teaching and displaying playable exhibits of rare games and consoles.
While life in the time of COVID has forced us to close our doors, the support of people like you has allowed us to continue to bring history to you through lectures and interviews like the one you'll hear in a few minutes. I'm Chun.
I'm Red.
I'm Anthony.
And I'm Miles. This week, Alex catches up with Rob Coffey, a fellow alum of Computer Gaming World, to talk about his path through the journalism world, his role at CGW, and some very fun stories about things he's worked on and people he's met. There was a large cast of very interesting characters in this week's talk.
Journalism is always fun to listen about, especially for the history and old news.
Mm-hmm.
It's always interesting to hear the amount of people from the gaming journalism world have access to so many interesting stories that you would never normally get to hear. I mean, half their great stories are things that it's like, yeah, these are just like cool little tidbits, but they're not article worthy necessarily. They don't necessarily think so as like a marketing perspective, but they're all the tidbits are what really gets you to know the gaming world and what it's about. Fun. It's about fun. But I think that you'll all enjoy this interview. But first, we'll get into a little bit of news. So, Psychonauts 2, what's going on?
So, some 16 years after the original game came out, Tim Schafer and the team over at Double Fine have finally released, as of tomorrow, the 25th, their long-awaited, much-anticipated sequel, Psychonauts 2. Reviews are coming in, and they are very good. I'm certainly excited to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is a really interesting, fun platformer puzzle game. It's the setting is bizarre. The locations are always just super weird and mind bending and really fun. It's got a lot of character and a lot of charm. So
it's from Double Fine, so they got a lot of just love poured into the game regardless.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be something really, really fun to do.
Yeah. And if you haven't heard the episode with Tim Schafer, definitely go check it out in our episode list.
Absolutely. That's a marvelous episode. Great information. And yeah, it blew me away. Also, just the enjoyment that they have from doing their job is something that's really special. In other news, Stardew Valley is an esport now. As of September 4th, there's going to be the Stardew Valley Cup. There was the creator of Stardew Valley worked with. Excuse me. The creator of Stardew Valley worked with a very popular YouTuber that created 100 different challenges to complete. And within those and teams face off against trying to complete these different 100 challenges, each worth a different level of points based on their difficulty and what needs to be done. And there's a prize pool of about $40,000, a little bit more available. So all your time farming in Stardew Valley can pay off.
That's not no money.
Just sign up. It's not no money. It is not no money.
God, imagine if you're programmers and people ask, what game do you play? And you say, I do competitive Stardew.
Yeah, I'm competitive Stardew Valley.
Stardew Valley Pro Circuit.
Oh, God.
Yes. It's amazing. It's just going to be fantastic. There's nothing... I mean, we're going to see Minecraft at this point. We're going to see a competitive Minecraft. Oh,
Minecraft has always been pretty competitive, as I know. Just there's never been someone to make it a real thing with money to be on board, I think.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm just expecting a Minecraft Cup with $1 million prize pool, and then all the Minecraft kids can be validated in their efforts of playing, which is great. But dang, there's just so many. Like Stardew Valley getting a esport cup is just really something special.
It sounds unreal. I would thought it's a joke if it's 1st of April.
Yeah, but it's not. It's middle of August, end of August, so it's real. It's happening in a couple weeks. And then final little piece of news: the Pokemon Legends Arceus gameplay trailer came out, and the biggest update that I noticed is that Pokemon can attack you, the trainer, and knock you out. And I was like, that's sounds fitting because there's lots of attacks where I'm like, if I'm standing behind my Pokemon, how's that not going to hit me? And also, Ash got shocked by Pikachu all the time, so of course Pokemon can attack. Of course, Pokemon can attack your trainer.
Finally, you can get a taste of Ash.
Finally, the immersiveness has come to Pokemon. You can feel the shared pain of your Pokemon.
Pain.
You can know what it's like, the shared suffering of Pokemon. But it looks enticing. It looks pretty exciting. I mean, it looks fun. I'm excited to see what it comes out to.
Yeah, just meanwhile, I will try to lower my expectation to prevent anything. Just know.
Don't have any high expectations, and then you won't be disappointed. So that's the lesson for everybody today on every game that's ever going to be released. Don't keep your hopes up, and you won't be disappointed.
Nothing will be perfect.
Yeah. Well, I think it's about time we stop talking about the news and let Alex and Rob get to their conversation. So without further ado, here's Alex chatting with Rob Coffey.
And we are back with Robert Coffey. How you doing, Rob?
I'm well, thanks, Alex. Thank you.
So we used to work together at Computer Gaming World, and we had Jeff on last week. So I figured we would start with just how you came to be there.
How did I get to be at Computer Gaming World?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I started off. I was a subscriber first, and I was a stay-at-home dad at the time, and I was doing freelance writing for mostly Larry Flint publications. I was writing the articles that surrounded the pornography. And I did some stuff on like pinball games for them. And I started, reading CGW, and I decided this would look like a good outlet for me to earn some money as a freelance writer. So I actually started writing reviews for a website. I don't even know if it exists anymore, called worldvillage.com. And they were paying me with just free games to review games for them. And I did that for about a year just to practice writing reviews and to feel that I would have the chops to work at CGW. And then so after a year, I then mailed actual mail, not email, to Ken Brown, who was the executive editor at CGW, and I sent him color laser printings of magazine articles that I had published in some of the Larry Flint clubs and San Diego Family Magazine, as well as printouts and links to the reviews that I had done. And my whole goal was to create a package that they would be unable to ignore. And indeed, when Ken contacted me, he said, I had never gotten that from anybody. I felt that I had to call you to see if you wanted to do work for us. And so I started freelancing for CGW, and I did that for a number of years. And then when Elliot Chin left the magazine, it opened up an editorial position. And I moved up to the Bay Area in '98 and started working full-time there.
What was that like, coming into the office and, playing games all day?
It was great. I mean, we didn't just play games all day. We did actually put out a magazine. And I was the action and strategy editor when I first came on board. So the magazine was organized differently. It didn't have a previews editor, reviews editor. So every editor was in charge of their genres, assigned all of those reviews. And as action and strategy, I had like the largest domain. So I was editing stuff and trying to play all of those games that I was assigning out and do preview coverage around all of that stuff. So it was a lot, but it was fun. It was great.
I remember your high heat baseball league that you had us all set up, and we drafted all the players and you set them all up. That was an incredible amount of work. It
was fantastic. When I had lived in New York City, my friend and writing partner, Cliff Hahn, he had an Amiga computer and I had an Amiga computer, and we both had Earl Weaver baseball. And we organized a 6-man league, and we played Earl Weaver baseball there. And it was one of the most gratifying, most satisfying gaming experiences of my entire life. So when I came to CGW, when High Heat came out, and it was such a great game, I was just like super motivated to do that. And it was great when we did that. Were you there for the first draft?
Yeah.
We were in the Fishbowl, which was this huge glassed-in conference room, and there were 12 or 14 of us. Everybody on the staff was in there. I had like multiple legal pads with all of I went hardcore into my draft prep. Jeff had not prepped. Nobody, some people had done no prep. Others had done something in between, and then I just had I had like a different legal pad for every position with my depth charts and draft order on it. And I know that people from sales came by and they saw us all in there. And I think they had the room booked, but they didn't even try to go in because they thought that we were so hard at work and so serious, and they'd never seen all of us so focused on anything before, that they thought it would have been, there was a major redesign or something going on. So they didn't dare disturb us, but we were just drafting baseball teams.
Yeah, it was great. I remember Pedro went first, and my first pick, I picked Mariano Rivera, which didn't work out well for me.
No? Why wouldn't that work out?
Because your first draft pick is a closer. That's
yeah. There, fair. I mean, Pedro Martinez was on. We actually, when we did the game of the end of the year awards, when we had like best weapon of the year was actually Pedro Martinez's changeup.
That's right,
because it was on. Oh, I'm sorry. It was unhittable.
It's okay. It was unhittable.
It was unhittable. And it was great.
We played against the 3DO team. You set up who set up that softball game?
Oh, I did. Me and I forget somebody at 3DO, and we played them. And
we lost.
We lost. We should have won, but
we
lost. Anyway,
no, I missed a line drive. I remember feeling very terrible at second base. But
whatever. It was a bunch of gamers out playing softball. I don't know what we expected.
Yeah, exactly. What other memories do you have of the time at CGW that you stick out?
I mean, just day in and day out, it was just such a great place to work. Everybody there was really cool. And, we did have a lot of fun. I remember when the first the zombie bunker thing came out for Half-Life 1. And we played that all day long, the whole office. And you would hear people shouting, "Zombies to the bunker!" And then we'd all run to the bunker and drop the bombs and kill all the scientists. And there was no scorekeeping in that mod, but we played it like for hours every day. We were so into it.
Game that's almost lost to history, all those old Half-Life mods.
Mm-hmm.
So along the way, you also worked on some movies, right?
Kind of. I mean, I have a BFA in acting from NYU. I studied with the actual Lee Strasberg while he was still alive.
That's great. I mean, Tisch is a great school. It's Tisch, right?
Yeah, Tisch School of the Arts. Yeah,
it's an amazing school. That's a great degree.
It's very good. I have no regrets or qualms about getting an acting degree. I think. Obviously, I'm not an actor anymore, but when I had continued to take acting classes at Strasberg, kind of as a staff member there, post graduation, and I was still writing and on the side, and I had a short story published in a magazine, and that was kind of the end of it for me. I'm like, okay, this is much better. I enjoy this. So I was working with a partner, Cliff, there in New York, and we were trying to do screenwriting stuff, and we produced a special for Manhattan cable television there called TV Television that our friends and us put together. That would all be on YouTube now. If we were doing it, it'd be a lot easier. And his girlfriend, Cliff's girlfriend, was working at Troma Films at the time. She was trying to get into the film industry at the executive level, and in fact, she did end up working at Miramax after that. But she was working at Troma, and they needed screenwriters to write Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD for them. They had gotten, I believe, I want to say like $3 million from these Japanese investors. And so Lloyd Kaufman took $1 million, his partner took $1 million, and then they were going to take the other $1 million and ostensibly pour it into their biggest, best movie ever. And, we found out they were doing this and looking for writers. So we wrote a script based on a sweater that Cliff had at his apartment, and we called it 70s Man. It was like a weird 70s sweater. And it was because we knew what they were trying to get with Kabuki Man. So we kind of wrote this thing, 70s Man, with an eye towards getting this job. And we wrote that in 10 days. It was about all the time that we had. Turned that in, they hired someone else. And then that guy could not produce a script. And so then they came back to us and said, we need a script. And we need it in 2 weeks. And this has to be the best script that we've ever done. We don't want any dick jokes or funny names or any of this kind of stuff. And so Cliff, we did it. I actually moved into Cliff's house, his apartment. I was in between apartments at the time, and all my stuff was in storage. So I just lived on his couch, went to work, waited tables, and then I'd come back and write at his place. And we wrote a very different Kabuki Man that ended up on the screen. That's why we have additional material by credit now, because they went ahead and put in all the dick jokes and all the funny names that they told us not to. And if you watch the movie, there's like a joke about the proletariat being exploited, and there's some other weird kind of esoteric jokes, and that's the little bits of our material that survived the new script. But the whole format of the movie is all ours. Like the structure of it and everything, we came up with all of it. They just rewrote all the dialogue and put in all the dick jokes.
Trauma's gonna trauma, right? Like
absolutely. We went over to Lloyd Kaufman's. He had a beautiful brownstone on the Upper East Side. We went up there one summer, and he wanted to have this conversation about all the things that he wanted in the movie. And I forget what was going on in the news at the time. It was New York City in the 80s. So there was all kinds of craziness going on, and he wanted all of that stuff put in. And the whole time he's telling this, neither of us can pay any attention to him because he's wearing these tennis shorts and his balls are hanging out during the entire meeting in his backyard. And he has a beautiful wife and these two beautiful little children, these girls that come in and out from the backyard of his brownstone. And he's like, Patty Pie, come over here. And he's talking to them and carrying on, and his balls are just hanging out. And
jeez.
It was a hell of a thing.
Thank you for that image. That's
You're
the Robert
welcome.
Coffey I remember and love.
Well, that happened.
I don't doubt that it did. That's I just remember that big poster you had on the wall behind you in your office of Sergeant Kabuki Man. I'd never heard of the movie at the time.
Right. Yeah, it's I saw it for the first time at San Diego Comic-Con 20-something years ago. They had like one of the first showings of it. So
you'd never seen it after when they'd taken all your stuff out?
No. We wrote it. We gave it to them. The check cleared. I mean, we actually did end up a few years later selling them the rights to 70s Man because we both needed money. They had liked the script. So we sold them the rights to 70s Man for like nothing, but we both got like $500,000 out of it or whatever. They never made the movie, but I had a baby at that time, and I'm like, I need $500. Sounds really good.
So you've managed to still be able to play games as a part of your career these days, right? What's going on these days with you and Jeff and everybody?
Well, Jeff and Ryan Scott and myself, we formed our own consulting company about 1.5 years ago. And Ryan worked with us at CGW, and we had all been doing consulting in various forms for a number of years. I had done it, ever since I left CGW, whenever that was. And it just made sense to team up. And we've had, we started this right when the pandemic blew up. So it was ideal timing. But it's worked out really well for us. So it's been really good. We've got a nice, robust client list, lots of different games, and it's cool.
Is there anything that you see out there in your consulting work that perhaps is a common mistake or a common thing that you see a lot, maybe like some advice, some holistic advice to some of the developers?
The onboarding is a constant thing that we run into, where the you can really make or break a game in those opening minutes in terms of how you onboard people. We are working on a product right now where the onboarding seems kind of robust, but it really doesn't show you the nuts and bolts of the things that you need to do to really succeed in the game. And so it doesn't prepare you well. It needs to expose you to these other ideas and stuff. So that's a persistent thing. That and things becoming just like repetitive.
Yeah, that's a constant difficulty. I mean, when you look at game design, a lot of people say, most games have like 3 or 4 core mechanics. How do you keep those things from getting repetitive over time?
You have to iterate on them within the game. They grow. A game I think that did a good job of that. I know a lot. For some reason, it got some weird kind of blowback, I think, from the public. I don't quite get it, but like Ghost of Tsushima, I thought was a really good, not the greatest game that was ever made, but one of my favorite games from the year that it came out. It probably helped that there was a pandemic going on, but they continually roll out just a little bit more. They keep adding a little bit more to this, and now you have this new stance, and now you have this new little thing, and they just keep adding a little thing and a little thing, and then they incentivize you to use it. Horizon Zero Dawn actually did that even better with all of the challenges that they had, because I'm the kind of player that will get locked into something that seems successful, right? Oh, this works. I'm just going to keep doing this. A lot of people will do that. Horizon Zero Dawn incentivized a playful sort of play to nudge you into using things you wouldn't normally do, and with rewards, and that just totally opened up the game a whole lot more for me, and really exposed me to how many options there were in it.
So you mentioned before you were the editor in charge of the action and strategy genres, which frankly at that time were like the RTS and the first person shooters,
exactly,
top of the line. What do you? I wanted to hit both of those genres. So like real time strategy, what's going on with that? You've been watching that for years. Like that is a weird genre these days.
It is a weird genre. I mean, I don't know what the Age of Empires is coming out, right?
And there was Grey Goo.
Yeah.
Some of those games, and they are billions. I mean,
yeah,
it's really morphed.
It has. It's not something that I personally have. I kind of burned out on RTS somewhere around Age of Mythology.
Well, that's when the industry burned out on it too.
Exactly. So, I mean, the response to these age betas has been really encouraging. So, I mean, I probably will check out an RTS again, but it's been, it just got burned out. And for me personally, the problem with RTS, when playing an RTS, is there's so much to keep track of at any one time that it overwhelms me and my ADD Tourette syndrome brain, and they can be a very anxious playing experience for me, at least early on in that whole economy build-up stuff. It's just very fraught for me.
And in terms of first-person shooters, what's your opinion after having watched that genre mature over the past 10, 25 years? It's,
it's gone through such an evolution, and it's I don't want to say fractured, but it's split up into so many different things now. Like before, like first person shooter used to be, and it still is like a big catch-all, but now people really define their interest in a first person shooter more by like the subgenre is. There's people that are really into the military shooters. There's people that are really into the live service games or really want these PvP things, or PvE co-op experiences. And it's weird to me how like shooter, I'm sure there's still general shooter fans, but it feels to me as if things have just become so much more specialized.
Absolutely. Did you play the more recent Doom, the most recent Doom?
I did. Yeah. And I didn't play a ton of it. I don't play a ton of everything that comes out because I'm constantly sampling because of work. I feel I need to be informed. I was very impressed with how much it felt like a Doom game. Like it had been a long time since I had played one, and we didn't prepare for this, so I can't put my finger exactly on what it was that did, but it's something about the movement, the pacing, the feel of the guns, everything about it's uniquely Doom. And it was fun to play that after such a long time and feel that again. It's like, oh my God, yeah, this is different than everything else. It's not, the same.
Well, before we wrap it up, I did have one final question I wanted to ask. What baseball game do you recommend these days?
I don't play as much or follow baseball as heavily as I used to, but I do play MLB. I like playing the Road to the Show. Mm. I've got a two-way player now. Everybody's Shohei Ohtani now, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's this weird, for me, it's a baseball RPG, and, it's just some kind of crazy wish fulfillment.
It feels like the mechanics of that genre have finally sort of settled down. It used to be wildly different between baseball games.
Yes. And you saw the same thing, like, in other sports games too, like golf games. It was always like everybody had a different way of dealing with golf swings. And it's just everybody has a different way of dealing with even MLB, I think, has like 3 or 4 different ways you can swing the bat. There's like so many options now, and they've just all been folded into that game.
Well, Robert Coffey, thank you so much for being here.
Sure. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
Excuse me. Well, thank you, Rob and Alex, for that really quite interesting conversation. Yeah. It's going to be something. Yeah, this is an episode to listen to, everybody. This is definitely one that you'll be you'll let's say replay, put it on repeat. Make sure you're not missing anything, but it's very good. Thank you, Rob, for coming in and chatting, and we'll hopefully have you on again in the future. Mm-hmm. So, what have y'all been playing? Anything exciting? Have you been playing Psychonauts 1 to gear up for Psychonauts 2?
No.
Have you been practicing Stardew Valley to get your training fingers up for the tournament?
I have friends that play Stardew Valley, but no, I don't.
I don't think my friends will practice that. It's a game supposed to be relaxing, so I don't think they really want to play competitive.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Next thing we're gonna know is like we're gonna have like competitive like inside. It's like competitive storytelling.
Actually, kind of speaking of that, I have been playing a lot of Wildermyth with my friends.
I've heard that this game is amazing.
It's really good. There is so to describe Wildermyth is essentially like the closest you can get to computer D&D.
Okay.
The combat is very, very similar to D&D, and like you're on a grid, you move your pieces around. You don't roll attacks, you just hit or don't.
Okay.
And everything outside of the game is based on sort of this legacy system of time passes really quickly. So, at the start of the game, you make your cast of heroes, like 4 or 5 heroes, and then you go on adventures, and all the adventures are basically pre-written comics that you make choices in.
Oh.
And so based on your stats and the choices you make, your characters can get more powers or, be turned into crows. My hero got a crow head because I pissed off a witch.
Oh, no. Is it just like, do you have increased pecking strength?
I think it did give me a stat of some kind. I can't remember what the stat was. But
the ability to bring down any conversation.
Right. So, the most fun in that game is reading through the comics with my friends because we all do stupid voices for all our characters, and it has just devolved into this absolute horror show of like us just screaming at each other and croaking and doing stupid voices that don't make any sense.
That's what you did with your bro.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So can you play this? This is like strictly like online co-op, yeah?
It's you can play it single player or you can play with up to 4 or 5 friends, I think.
Ooh, nice. Okay. I like that small parties. Like anything that's where you can have like a group of like 10 to 12 people. I'm like, that's just too many to talk to. You're not going to get a word in edgewise.
Yeah.
But 3 to 4, especially in like a turn-based style game. I was looking at the art for it, and it also just looks
the art is great. Yeah, it's got a really great
yeah.
style of like, oh, it's all paper cutouts, that kind of thing. There are 3 or 4 like pre-written long adventures that have an actual story that go all the way through. And then the interesting thing about the game is that it's theoretically endless because all of the content can be added to through mod support. And it's they've released like all the tools you need to be able to write your own adventures.
Dude,
and
that's
you
awesome.
can just have like open-ended adventures where your characters will age to the point where they retire, and their children will take over, or you hire on new help. So like the story just sort of keeps expanding onward and not really having a clear end unless you just decide to stop or you have the pre-written adventures.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's great.
That's amazing. I like that. That was a kind of that kind of reminds me of the old just like a style of play in like in the old Infinity Blade mobile game on your phone, because like each time you would go through and you would fight these other characters or just enemies, and then you would die, you would come back as like the next person in line of like the family line. You'd come back as the next person and would keep track of like how many generations it took you to get to the finale. But actually having a character retire and then cheer you on from the sidelines sounds like it would be even more fun.
Yeah, it's really good.
Well, I think that is all the time that we have for the rest of the day. But thank you for listening to the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment's official podcast. If you have any thoughts, questions, corrections, or general museum ideas, please shoot us an email at info@themade.org.
We would like to send out a big thank you to everyone who donated recently and to our Patreon supporters who keep the Made afloat. Patreon donors get to listen to this podcast 1 week before it's released on major streaming services, and we'll continue that with future episodes every week. Till then, I'm Chun.
I'm Red.
I'm Anthony.
And I'm Miles. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next time.